Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Jesse. I'm here with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. And if you're joining us for the first time, as some of our audiences today, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. Now, we get to do about 40 programs every single month featuring the coolest scientists and explorers on planet Earth. But I've got to say, every October, I'm particularly keen when we get to go back to our amazing speakers joining us today because it's fall. Certainly where I am, it's getting a little crisper. The leaves are changing color. I've got to put on a sweater when I go outside. And when that happens, we've got some epic bird action happening out in Idaho. We are joined live by Heidi Carlisle at the Intermountain Bird Observatory. We join them every single year for a bevy of programs. We've got one next week as well, where we're going to go on a little bit of a songbird journey by the Diane Moore Nature Center. So thank you all so much for joining us, audience. And without further ado, Heidi, on a beautiful day in Idaho, and with the best connection outdoors I've ever seen, take us away.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We're here at the Diane Moore Nature Center, and we have much better cell phone reception than our other site because this is an interesting place. It looks very wild. There's a lot of wildlife habitat down here, but then if I turn you guys around, we've got a big highway bridge behind us. So we're kind of at an urban wildland interface where there's humans nearby, but great habitat for birds at the same time. So we're out here this morning hoping to catch and band some really small songbirds. We've caught some so far already, and we're going to do a net check here soon to see if we run into any more birds. So I could tell you a little bit more about what we do while we're waiting for birds, if that works for you, Jesse, or whatever you want to do.
Well, yeah, so we can walk around a little. You can show us a little bit of the landscape. Tell us what you guys do out there on a general basis every single year. Because as I said, we've joined you for what, 7-8 years now out in the field. It's wild.
I think so.
Yeah. So I'd love to hear what that process is like. What's your team like? How do you get out to the field? This is a little bit of a different spot than we usually hang out, but what's it like being a scientist with songbirds?
Maybe I'll walk you over to one of our nets and you guys can see how they work. So it's fall migration, so we're studying birds as they're heading south. Idaho is sort of a temperate climate, so it does get cold and snowy in the wintertime, but very hot in the summer. Like today, I think it's going to be up in the 80s still, Fahrenheit. I don't know what that is, Celsius. And so let's see. It's a little breezy this morning. This is one of our nets, and you can barely see it on the camera. Let's try. There you go. So it's very soft thread. It's called a mist net because it's really see-through. And so we have 10 of these set up this morning in areas where we think songbirds will be visiting. So in this location, there's some nice cottonwood trees, some golden currant shrubs that have a lot of fruit, some other shrubs that have a lot of insects. So it's a great place for birds to hang out, and that means hopefully a great place where we'll catch a couple of them this morning. So this is a site that some species spend the winter, and it's also a site where a lot of our longer distance migrants are just passing through. So this morning I expect we'll catch kind of a mix of those overwintering species that are going to hang out with us through the cold Idaho winter, and then some other species that are on their way south, maybe even as far as Mexico or Central America. So maybe I'll take you guys up to check out our banding table where we have some tools. You guys can see what we're using and how we're putting those bands on the birds.
Very cool. While you're walking there, actually, Heidi, I'll just ask, what kinds of birds do you expect? We've got kids today in Texas. We've got kids in Michigan. I'm out in Newfoundland. Are there sort of general birds across the continent that you see there in Idaho too? Are there special birds that only live in the neck of the woods that you are? Anything you can share?
Yeah, so we already caught this morning some ruby-crowned kinglets, which occur across the continent. I expect some yellow-rumped warblers this morning, which I think you guys all have also. But yeah, song sparrows, white-crowned sparrows. All of these birds that we're catching this morning are about that big, pretty small. Our nets are sized on purpose to only catch small songbirds, since that's the goal of our study here. So let me show you guys some of our bands. I'll show you some bigger bands so they actually show up on the camera. So these are larger bands. These are about the diameter of a pencil that you guys probably have in the classroom. And we would put this type of band on a larger bird like a northern flicker, which is a type of woodpecker. Our small birds, so let me pull out a really small, actually, Vicky, can I get you to pull a band out since I only have one hand? Our smaller bands, like we would put on a ruby-crowned kinglet, are really tiny. You can barely see that little aluminum band in my hand there. So these bands have a 9-digit number stamped into them, and they're unique to that bird. So no other bird in the world will have the same number. And that lets us look them up if we catch them again, which happens pretty frequently, or even more exciting if another scientist catches them. So actually just yesterday, one of our hawk trappers was out at our banding station up in the mountains about 5 miles away from here, and he caught a Cooper's hawk, and when he pulled it out of the net, he realized that it already had a band on its leg, and not only that, but the band had kind of a dull patina. It wasn't shiny anymore, so he knew it was a fairly old band. We actually posted on Facebook. Scientists can look up band records through the bird banding lab, but it's usually faster to just post online. And right away, our friends south of us at the Go Shoot raptor trapping station messaged back that they had caught the same bird to the day 5 years previously. So she was an old adult female Cooper's hawk. And so, yeah, the foreign recaptures are really exciting. So we know that that female must migrate along this path every year since she was first banded in 2019, I think it was. Our scientists are back with some birds. So now you guys can just like watch cool stuff instead of listening to me talk. So we've got you guys want to be on camera? Got a couple scientists. Here's Lucian. He's back with a bird in a little bag there. You guys can see that cloth bag that he has. And then Christina over here is going to take a bird out of the bag as well. So we'll get to see what they brought back. I might try to turn my camera around. I don't remember how to do it.
It's going to work. We'll work on it together. By the way, you'll notice that everyone is smiling ear to ear because being out on a beautiful day in the field catching birds is one of the cool jobs that you can have in the world. By the way, Oak Hills Terrace Elementary joining us. What a cool story about the yellow-cheeked warblers. Thanks for sharing that in the chat. And we'll work on our camera as we release a bird together. I'll put myself back in the background.
Five. Okay. So Lucian's got a yellow-rumped warbler, I guess, right? So he's able to identify the bird as soon as he gets it out of the bag, and that tells us what size band that bird is going to wear. So, and then let's see what Christina also has, a yellow-rumped warbler. So we know that based on the species, we can put a band size 0 on these birds. We're catching full-grown birds. They're adults, or they're the same size as an adult, even if they're only a few months old by this time of year. So we know that that band size is going to fit well for that individual for the rest of its life. They're done growing. And so we'll be putting the bands on and then start taking some measurements. So we have little pliers, and let's see if these guys, oh yeah, you can see Lucian's grabbing some pliers. The aluminum bands come closed. I don't know if you guys saw that when I was holding them up earlier. So they're in a circle. And then, oh yeah, can we show Christina?
Can you see that?
Yeah, the pin on the pliers opens the band so that it's kind of a C shape. And that turns it into like a cuff bracelet that we can then slide gently over the leg of the bird. Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, nice. There's that little yellow-rumped warbler's like, hey guys, hi.
Just get new jewelry.
977. So we keep track of all this data on a data sheet. Here, we're recording their band number, their species, and then Lucian and Christina are going to look at more closely at these birds to decide their age and sex. And yellow-rumped warblers, you can identify males and females. Their feathers are different colors. And so then now Christina's got these pliers, and they're able to squeeze around the band without touching the leg of the bird. So that allows us to get a really nice tight seal. That way the band is closed smoothly. There's no gaps, there's no edges, so it'll fit just like a watch or a bracelet or a ring.
So I can
There.
squeeze
Yeah, see that? So the pliers don't close all the way. So now these two birds have those bands that they're going to wear for the rest of their lives. They're going to start blowing on the feathers of these birds soon. Oh yeah, Christina's going to actually measure the wing while Lucian blows on his bird. We're measuring the wing to get an idea of body size. We're also measuring their tail. So just like when you go to the doctor's office and except on a bird, if we tried to measure how tall they were, they would probably just fly away. So we measure their wing and tail instead. And then Lucian's blowing on the body of the bird to move the feathers out of the way. That allows us to see the bird's body underneath. And in these songbirds, their skin is so thin that it's see-through. So we're able to see actually their fat and their muscle through that skin. Fat is the most important data point we're collecting today because these birds are migrating. So fat is like the gas in the gas tank for these birds. If they have a lot of fat, that means they're ready to go. They've been able to find a lot of food. And it also tells us that they're planning on traveling farther once they leave us. If they're skinny, it can mean a few different things. It can mean maybe they just flew last night, and so they're out of gas and they need to stop here to refuel. It could also mean that they're planning on staying here for the winter, so they're not planning on going anywhere, so they don't need to carry around that heavy fat. So we'll find out on these yellow-rumped warblers. Yellow-rumped warblers can overwinter in Boise, so we are probably catching a mix of birds that are heading down as far south as California, and birds that are going to stay and tough it out here for the winter. So we'll find out. Maybe I'll hold the camera up so you guys can see more closely while you ask questions, Jesse.
Sure, yeah. Thank you so much, Heidi. And I'll make it full screen for you guys first. Look at these birds. Well, so one of our first questions that we always get that I always like highlighting is that you all look very calm and collected holding these birds. Should everybody hold birds like this, or is this just for pros like you? And how do you get the skills to do this?
Very good question. So, no, don't go grab birds in your backyard. We have a ton of training to be able to do this safely. We're using a grip called Bander's grip that allows us to keep those birds in our hand so that they can't fly away. But it's also a really safe grip that doesn't hurt those birds. If you went out without any training and just randomly grabbed a bird, you could actually injure them. So it's important not to do that. Also, oh yeah. So one of the things Christina is checking is on the tail of this bird, a mite has chewed a couple holes in the tail. I don't know if you guys can see it, but you can at least see the nice white tail spots, which is pretty cool. So that's one thing we're checking for is parasites. It can give us another indication of the health of these birds.
Fantastic. How neat is this? Well, as Heidi said, we're going to dive in with questions because I want to hear from you guys what your keen days are. So Oak Hills Terrace, I might come to you first for our first question. Miss Fisher will come to you right after. YouTubers, please do chime in the chat as well. But in San Antonio, if you guys want to kick us off with any questions you want to know about our birds, you can unmute your mic, come on into the broadcast, and take us away. Hello, Mr. Robin. Hi, guys. Unmute. Let's see.
Sorry, I have 3 monitors connected, so it takes me a while.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay. All right. This is Isaac, and he has a question.
Hi, Isaac.
How fast can a bird go?
Ooh, good question. These little songbirds, I'm not exactly sure. We put satellite transmitters on a different species called a long-billed curlew. They're a really large shorebird. And looking at those satellite transmitters, we know that they can fly about 60 miles an hour, so pretty fast. I would guess these little songbirds are a little slower than that, but
wild though. Oh, is there something you want to show us? I'll go to the next question in a minute, but it looks like you.
Nothing in particular, but
okay. Go.
Just cool birds.
They are cool birds.
What's your wing length? It looks boyish. I'm like, 74. So one thing we're trying to decide is if this is a male or a female. It has a shorter wing. Oh yeah. Weird. Whoa, and it has a tail feather replaced too, I noticed. Yeah. I think it looks okay for, well, no, I don't know. I think we should say sex unknown. Okay. The throat is pretty dull. So we're looking at a bunch of things to age and sex these birds. Their rump color, their tail color, their wing length, And sometimes we just have to say unknown if they have kind of a mix of traits. But anyway, sorry, we can take another question.
Oh, no, that's fine. That's perfect. One of my favorite joys in this job is when either classes can stump a scientist for their question or the birds can stump a scientist. Hello, bird. So that's fantastic. Hello. This is so, by the way, I want to stress for our classes, how cool it is to get to be out in the field in another state across the United States and see live birds. It's fantastic. And Heidi mentioned something that I want to harp on because we've got loads of time together. Like, their skin is so thin, you can see their organs and their fat underneath. So when you're blowing on the feathers, imagine if your stomach, you could see like your liver and your intestines and your stomach. Kind of gross, but very cool with birds and allows us to get some really great data. So I always like to harp on that because it's so neat.
If we get one that's fat, we'll try. It's kind of hard to show it on the camera, but we'll try to show some of the fat. It shows up kind of bright orange, so if there's fat, you can see it.
I've seen it a couple times in our history. It's very fun. Carsonville, we're going to head to you guys. Miss Fisher's class, come on in and take us away with a question.
I got a question.
Yeah, come on up.
My question is, why do birds, like, I got some in my backyard, but
Yeah.
I have a pet bird who, like, he's a hawk, and he tried to snatch at my wiener dog a couple times. Why do they eat wiener dogs? And she's very old and overfed.
Yeah.
Why do birds of prey try to eat pets? Well, sometimes pets are about the same size as a food item that a raptor would eat. Most pets, unless they're tiny, like a guinea pig size, aren't able to be caught by hawks that you guys would probably have around. Sometimes hawks will swoop at a pet and you think it's because they're trying to eat it, but it's more likely that they're trying to protect their territory. So they're saying, oh, I know your wiener dog is a predator, so I'm going to swoop at it to scare it away because maybe it has a nest nearby. It's worried about its family. So that is usually what happens. Hawks are swooping to kind of protect their family, and it seems like they're trying to eat your dog or cat.
I think the annals of exploring by the seat of your pants, why does the hawk try and eat my wiener dog, is one of my all-time favorite questions. So thank you very much to Mr. Student for that. We're going to head back to Oak Hills Terrace. Come on back in, guys. Unmute and join us for a second question. Hello. Welcome back in, San Antonio.
All right, let me get the next student up.
Perfect.
All right. This is Xavier.
Hey, Xavier.
How far and high do they fly?
Nice.
Ooh, really good question, and I forgot to talk about it, so I'm glad you asked. These songbirds fly at night. They're looking at the stars, and they also can see the Earth's magnetic field to navigate. So they're flying all night. They can fly hundreds or even 1,000 miles in one night, these tiny little birds. And then they stop and rest for, 3 days to a week to refuel. They fly about 10,000 feet elevation is sort of average for a lot of songbirds, but quite high. These songbirds are really, really tiny, and the wind can really blow them around while they're flying. So when they take off right around sunset, usually they try to get really high where the air currents are a little more calm. And that helps them get farther faster so that they're not being blown around by huge wind gusts all the time.
Yeah, cool question, guys. I'm amazed that 10,000 feet is our standard. That's wild to think about, honestly. Very cool.
You can go up to 20. It's crazy.
Were you going to show us something? Sorry, it looks like you're heading down.
Just for fun, Christina's collecting more data, so you can watch her collect data while you guys ask questions.
And when we're done with the birds, when you're done collecting the data, by the way, before we go back to Miss Fisher's class, what do you do with the birds? Do you keep it in any way? Do you release it? Share what's going on?
Yeah, I actually missed. We let go those first 2 yellow-rumped warblers. The bird Christina has now is a new yellow-rumped warbler. I missed showing you guys how we release them, but we let them fly off right after we're done collecting data. So if this one's ready to go soon, I'll interrupt whatever I'm doing and show you so you can see it fly away.
We would love that. How many birds do you capture? Miss Fisher's class, we'll come to you in 2 seconds. How many birds are you capturing during a day if you've already gotten more birds as we've been talking together? That seems like a lot.
It seems like it's a good morning, so as the weather's getting colder, we're definitely catching more. Last week, we were catching only about 30 birds a day. That's pretty slow. but our other station yesterday caught more than 100. So migration is definitely starting to pick up. Yeah, so in 5 hours in a morning, they caught about, I think, 111 or something like that.
Like, sorry, every year, this surprises me. It blows my mind that you catch that many birds in a day. It's absurd. We've done programs in Ontario as well, and they're like 300 owls a day, and it's like, how? I didn't even know there were that many birds around. Like, it's amazing, really. So
Yeah.
Miss Fisher's class. I'll stop talking. Carsonville, come on back in, guys. Hey.
What do they eat and how high they can fly?
Yeah. What do they
Oh,
eat?
yeah. So what do they eat? A lot of the birds we're catching that are migrating are insect-eating birds. Oh, yeah, and we're about to let a bird fly. So a lot of the birds are insect-eating birds, and the reason they're migrating is because they can't stay in Idaho for the winter. But yellow-rumped warblers actually switch over and eat fruit. So here we're going to show off. Cindy's going to show off this yellow-rumped warbler. There you go.
Here we go.
So if you want, Cindy, to set it, I'll try to get it on video of you releasing it. So you guys can watch. We're just going to let it fly. Here we go. Hey, dude. He's off. That's how fast they fly. So yellow-rumped warblers are cool. They eat insects in the summertime, but then they switch over to eating fruit in the winter. They eat a lot of juniper berries, and they actually change the length of their intestines to switch diets. So in the summer, when they're eating lots of soft, squishy bugs, they have short intestines because those are easy to digest. Then when they switch over to fruit in the wintertime, the really hard juniper berries are hard to digest, and so they grow longer intestines to digest that tougher fruit.
Heidi, you're obviously so entranced with this, and so a great question we got online is perfect for this. How do you get your job? What did you do to end up here? What can our kids do to follow in your footsteps?
Yeah, so I started out volunteering, and I was lucky to have the ability to volunteer. So when I was, oh, there we go. This is our same day recapture. Came back.
This is one of the birds we just let go, and it flew back into the net.
A different net.
So we get to let it go again.
So briefly, when that happens, do you have to do any data collection again, or no? You're just like, go away. Yeah. Okay.
If it's a same day recapture, we just let them go. But we really like getting recaptures of birds day to day. So, for example, I always remember this little orange crown warbler. I banded her at the very end of our banding day, so around lunchtime one year, and we recaught her the next morning, and I weighed her, and she was a gram heavier. So she's like a 8.5 gram bird, and then she was 9.5 grams. So a huge gain in body fat, which tells us, wow, that habitat that she was in was really great for her. Lots of food resources available. So that's exactly what we are aiming to learn from this data is getting recaptures, but not 10 minutes after we let them go, because they don't change that much in that short amount of time. But so my job, so I started volunteering when I was in undergraduate. So when my very first year at Boise State University here, and then I just stayed. So started volunteering as much as I could, and then got some summer jobs doing that work too. So when you're in college or university, if you're able to get some summer jobs in a field you're interested in, that's a great way to go. And now I work with a lot of undergraduates doing 4 credits. So like instead of taking a class, you just do field work and you get college credit for it. So that's pretty fun too.
Sounds so much fun, and thank you so much for highlighting volunteering. So kids, whatever you're interested in at any stage, if you are keen, ask if you can help out. It's amazing where that can lead you in life. This is something we hear from a lot of our speakers in pretty much every field imaginable. So I really appreciate that, Heidi. Oak Hill Terrace, come on back in, unmute your mic, and take us away with question number 3. Hey guys.
All right, this is Presley.
Hey Presley.
How long does a bird live?
Ooh, good question. So these little songbirds can live, the record for a lot of these species is 10 or 15 years. So surprisingly long, I think. We had a black-headed grosbeak last year. Actually, Lucian over here. Where's Lucian? Lucian was there. and recaught a black-headed grosbeak that I had banded 14 years, or my husband and I had banded 14 years before that. So we knew he was 15 years old. That was pretty exciting.
Cool, especially the personal connection. How neat is that? Oh,
Yeah.
Well, thank you for the question, guys. And that is really long. For an animal that small to live 14, 15 years is really wild. That's very unusual in sort of the mammal world anyway. Mice live 1-2 years,
Right.
like that. Yep.
And they're
So-
migrating, like that black-headed grosbeak goes to Mexico, so 2,000 to 3,000 miles one way each year.
Maybe that's the key. You go down, you enjoy the sunshine, you come back, you live longer. That's certainly the Canadian perspective.
It's a tropical vacation.
Miss Fisher's class, come in. We're going to take one more question per class after this is done, because time flies and you're having fun and we're nearing the end of the broadcast. But Carsonville, come on back in and take us away.
How do they stay on trees?
How do they stay on trees? Let's look at a bird's foot while we have them up close so you can see. Let me try. I haven't been able to flip my camera, so it's kind of hard, but
It's got meshy that you can look at.
oh, yeah. Yeah, so
So it's perching on my finger.
see how that little kinglet is perching on Christina's hand?
So it's got little claws that it can hang on.
So we brought
So
back,
when the branch is windy.
yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you go. It's hard to show. Yeah, but they have little claws. These songbirds' claws aren't very sharp, but they have 3 toes forward and 1 toe back to hold onto the branch. They actually have special ligaments that help lock, because birds sleep perched on little branches. So they have little ligaments that lock their toes and hold them closed while they're asleep so that they can not fall off the branch while they're sleeping. But we brought back 2 ruby crown kinglets. Are either of them male? We'll have to show you the ruby crown. Let me show you really quick. Is that okay?
Of course.
Do you guys see that little ruby crown?
Yeah, look at that.
So these guys are tiny. They weigh 5 or 6 grams, which is the same as like 5 or 6 Skittles. So really tiny guys.
Heidi, I want you to know, and for our classes too, the first time I ever did a program with Heidi back, geez, probably 2016 at this point, 2017, she referenced the 6 grams and 6 Skittles, and I've never been able to think of birds in any context other than Skittle weight from now on. So like that really ruined me forever. So I'm glad every time we get to bring that up. So this group, like as a group, songbirds are the perching birds. Like they literally have, as you said, feet that are meant to hold onto a branch. And I'm glad you mentioned the locking ligaments. I guess the only human comparison is when we stand, our knees tend to lock. So it's not like you need a lot of muscle energy to stand straight up. Your knees get in that position and you're there and you're good. Sloths have arms that can hang like that with their claws. So it's not like they're holding on to the branch for dear life. They just lock in and can stay. And so same with our birds. Cool question, guys. All right. Heidi, we're going to go back to our Texas class. San Antonio, come on back in. Miss Fisher will wrap up with you guys in a minute. YouTubers, if there's any you want to chime in with, please do. We'd like to take more from you as well. But Oak Hills Terrace. Hey, guys.
Okay, your question. This is Amory.
How do birds? How do birds see at night in the magnetic field?
Oh, cool.
Cool. I like nerding out about the magnetic field. So songbirds' night vision isn't much better than ours. So hopefully while they're migrating, they're flying away from bright cities. Big cities actually can be a problem for birds because they get lost in the bright lights. They need the dark sky to see. But the magnetic field. So the short story is there's cones in your eye that see all the different colors. And birds have an extra cone in their eye that is sensitive to the magnetic field. We don't know exactly what it looks like, but we think it must appear almost like a shadow. So like if you've seen in movies like a airplane pilot that has a heads-up display, or like a sci-fi movie where there's glass and there's an image projected on it. We think it's like that. So they're seeing the real world and everything that we're seeing, but then they're seeing this shadow or some shape of the magnetic field in their vision. But we don't have that special cone, so we don't exactly know what it looks like, but somehow they're seeing it. Scientists have found it's only in their right eye that they can see the magnetic field, which is another weird thing. So, yeah.
Super neat. And it's worth noting for our students that might not know this, that if you have a bird, not that you should do this, but if you have a bird in a completely locked room where it can't see the sun and you sort of put ink on its feet, it will always try and fly in the direction that they want to migrate. Like they can sense that, whether they can see outsider, like it's quite incredible, birds' ability to sense that magnetic field. They're one of the only groups that can do that. And I'm so glad we got that question. It's one of our first ever magnetic field questions.
Yeah.
Our bird comes and says hello.
Here's our little ruby crown kinglet. You can see his crown. I want to see if he's fat. He's a little bit fat. I don't know if I can show you guys. I don't know if you guys can see. Through his little feathers on his belly, he has some orange fat. But I think it's pretty hard to.
It's a little tricky. But
I can't do the blow on this bird's belly. Here,
How do we
let me
do
try.
this?
I'll just hand him off to you. Sorry, I'm going to hand this bird to Lucian to show off his fat because it's so cool.
I love the effort. Thank you for this very much.
There we go. Okay, let's see if we can do it. Can you see any of that orange? There we go. You can see his belly. He's got a chubby little belly full of fat. All right, and then we can let him fly off. Ta-dee! There we go.
Magnificent. Thank you very much, you two, for that. That was awesome. Well, folks, time flies when you're having fun, so we are nearing the end of the broadcast. I'm going to pass along to all our teachers a little bit more about Boise State, the Intermountain Bird Observatory. Next week, we're going to try out the Lucky Peak. Yes, so you can join us for that. We're going to try and catch even more birds. There's all sorts of past YouTube videos with Heidi, so if you want to see all manner of catches we've had in the past, there's so much to explore and discover on our YouTube page as well. We will wrap up with one more question from Miss Fisher's class before we say farewell, everybody. Come on in and take us away. Hey, guys.
All right, loud and proud, Elijah.
How long does it take them to be born?
How long
How
does it
long?
take you for what?
To be born, like
How
to
long
hatch?
does it take them to be born?
Yeah.
Good question. So eggs form in a female's belly in just one day, so about 24 hours for these little songbirds. So the moms are only pregnant or gravid for a day. Then they lay those eggs, and most songbirds, they have to incubate and sit on those eggs to keep them warm for about 2-ish weeks, 10 days. And then those baby birds are in the nest again for 2-ish weeks or 10 days before they leave that nest and head out on their own. So about 4 weeks from when the egg comes out of the mom's belly until the chicks leave the nest.
Guys, these have been such fantastic questions. Ms. Fisher's class, Mr. Rotman's class, we really appreciate them. Please do, if you have more questions, you got a note in the chat, but just email them to us. We'll get them to Heidi. We'll get some answers for you on anything you might want to know about birds after the broadcast is done. So please feel free to do that. Exploring by the seat of your pants. You have all our email address, and I'll message you all in a minute. Heidi, is there any last message you want to leave us with before we say thank you and farewell for today?
I have another ruby crown kinglet to let fly. Just for fun. So
Perfect.
little male, here he goes. And yeah, I don't think I have anything else, but thanks for watching, guys. And think about all those birds flying overhead. I guess I'll say, so you can go to a really cool website called Birdcast that's done by Cornell, and you can see how many birds are migrating overhead each night, which is pretty fun to watch during migration.
We'll put that in the chat for everyone at the end, too. Thank you so much for the extra plug. And as you well know, I'm going to bring in our class to say thank you and farewell. So Oak Hills Terrace, Miss Fisher's class, YouTubers, chime in at home. Thank you so much, everybody, and have a wonderful rest of your day. See you later, everyone. And we are done live.